Hey everybody, hey, it's Deborah. Popping in here because I want to let you know I'm going to do a Q&A about strength training for women over 40, specifically women in menopause. So you're in perimenopause, you may not know it, it may be smooth for you until it's not. That menopause transition or in postmenopause. I am at one of my favorite places in the world, in a micro way, but also in a macro way. So I'm at Coot Lake, just outside of Boulder, Longmont, and Niwot in Colorado. And I'm getting photobombed by a dog, which is very cool. And I'm in Boulder, so you can see the foothills and probably not make out the Flatirons in the background. I wish I could do the whole thing here, but you're probably picking up a little wind. We're gonna have more traffic distracting me. Don't really care what they think. However, I do want to do a shout out to Jean, who just stopped me on my last lap, actually about right here, and said, I follow you on YouTube, I know you. So I am so grateful for you stopping me. So Jean, by the way, if you're in Boulder area, she's a marathon coach. So there's that. But I love when our world gets smaller at the same time it's getting bigger. So I don't even live here anymore. I'm back for the week. But I'm going to jump in, do these Q&As, and again, wish I could do them all right here, but it's just not isolated enough. So I will put down below in the comments the times so you can go immediately to the questions that you also most have. How do you strength train to build muscle? So if you don't know you want to build the muscle, you absolutely do. Now, some of you may be saying, I don't want to build, I want to tone. Without muscle, without building the muscle, you have no tone. So one is the other. I promise you, it's just we're using different words to get there. And I know that you are defaulting to that notorious, I don't want to bulk, I don't want to bulk. You won't. So especially in menopause, you won't, I promise you. And if you do anything close to it, it's not the muscle, it's not the strength training. What's probably happening is you're doing something that's causing you to tip your cortisol in the wrong direction. You may have an excess of estrogen. We call it estrogen dominance. That's relative to progesterone, and things are not working out for you right. You're probably retaining water. I actually just have a mishap with hormone replacement therapy due to a supply chain issue. Same thing happened to me. Within about a week, I gained about 8 pounds. So it is water weight. I mean, I know that's not fat. Feels like it. Irritating as you know what, but certainly gave me empathy for what some of you are dealing with when we're on this roller coaster ride. But how do you strength train for muscle? Here's how. So you reach muscular fatigue at the end of every set. Now, as a strength and conditioning coach and as a medical exercise specialist, never would I want anyone ever to do more than 25 to 30 repetitions per set, because we start borderlining then wear and tear on the joint. We're going way too light and we're going in the opposite direction. So if in fact you have arthritis, we want you to stay a little bit lower in a sweet spot, but not really low and really heavy. So if you can go heavy, that's ultimately going to be the best for you. And I will talk in a little bit about how it's best for bone density. But you can gain muscle strength and you can gain muscle tone and definition and lean muscle mass in any way. Lightweight, moderate weight, heavyweight. So you're going to go from lightweight, most repetitions, to moderate rate, moderate repetition, to heavyweight, least repetitions. That's just the nature of it. So when I say numbers specifically, range of high reps would be anywhere over 20 is really in the higher rep range, but 25 to 28, don't go any higher than that. Again, wear and tear on those joints, we don't want that either. So medium or moderate would be somewhere between 15 to 20. You might 13, 14, it's always plus or minus a few. So think 15 to 20. Heavier, 10 or fewer. Now I know I'm leaving gaps in there, and that's on purpose. If those of you are who are able to lift really heavy can lift less than 10 because your joints are healthy and vibrant, and you warm up with lighter weights, do moderate, then get to your heavier sets so you're actually prepared during the session, and leave plenty of recovery, that's the best way for you. But you could also mix it up, not always going heavy because you don't want anything to break down. So I hope that makes sense. The number one key to gaining muscle and therefore gaining strength, tone, and definition is actually reaching muscular fatigue. Everybody should start with higher reps and lower weight because we have to lay a foundation for our connective tissue that around the joint, not just the muscle. So up here, we may want to work harder, faster. The muscle may be fine, but your connective tissue in there is not going to talk to you until it's injured. So just take it slow. Building up to a heavier weight will take 8 weeks if you're just a beginner starting. But I hope that's helpful. Next question, we're going to talk about how to build bone density. What's the best way to build bone density? Via strength training. So of all exercise, and I know often you're going to be told do weight-bearing exercise, and you're always told that walking is weight-bearing exercise. Well, there's a whole continuum of exercise, and you'll find other videos where I've mentioned this, that from on the couch to doing yoga, there's a little bit more weight bearing there, standing still, but you have to have the strike. So what I mean by that is this. So look at my feet. So heel strike, roll through. The greatest impact there is on the heel. So when I go for a walk, that's still just my body weight again and again and again. There's no greater impact. After I'm walking, if you can walk a mile, walking 2 miles doesn't give you more bone density because it's still your body weight every step. So once you've adapted, there'll be a period of time where you'll gain bone density because you're walking if you weren't. But then there's going to be plateau. Now you need another minimum effective stress. It's called MES, and it's been in existence since 1995, but a lot of people don't give it its fair diligence. So it's important to think, if you could run, do you get a little bit more? From walking to running, yes. But then again, if you can run a mile and then you run 2 miles, there's not more bone density. And in fact, for runners, it gets kind of dangerous because if you're a long distance runner, you're probably tending to have a little bit more muscle wasting going on, especially as you age. You're losing more muscle. That means you're lighter, you're leaner, and without more body weight on those bones, you're losing bone density. So you can see there's benefit to weight-bearing exercise. Jumping is best, right? So if you could jump off of a 6-inch box, off of 12, off of 18, but then we start risk of injury gains a little bit as well. So we have to weigh risk, reward, risk, reward. That's an important consideration. So yes, do some plyometric exercise. That means jump and sideways, forward and back, lots of different kinds of ways to jump. But you don't want to do that all the time because the risk of injury is greater. We're talking just a couple of minutes, several times a week would be helpful if you can. However, what everybody can do, whether they can do impact or not, is strength train, and everybody needs to be doing that. So nothing beats strength training. If we compare weight bearing, like walking, running, jumping even, to strength training, the winner is hands down across the research, strength training. So how do you strength train? So I just answered, how do you strength train for muscle benefit? You can gain strength, gain muscle by doing any amount of repetitions, lighter weight, moderate weight, as long as you reach muscular fatigue. The same is not true with bone density. With bone density, you want to go to muscular fatigue. Yes, it's most likely going to be built in. You want to go heavy. And if you can't go heavy, or even if you can, you want to employ something called power, where you're actually moving with a little bit more speed. So power is, in fact, speed plus strength. Looks something like this. Okay, let's pretend I'm just doing a bent over row. So I don't have any weights, but I'm going to go slow and controlled to lift, and I'm going to go slow and controlled to lower down. So it's 1 to 2 seconds up, generally 3 to 4 seconds to lower down. But if I want to employ power, it's going to look more like this. 1 or less to lift, and then slowly lowering down. So it's totally under control, but I'm definitely giving power. It's been shown or proven that power, the addition of speed, actually surpasses going slow and controlled for benefit of bone and for benefit of muscle building toward metabolism gains. So best of both worlds. When you've got a good foundation, then it's time to start adding power, but wait till you have that foundation before you begin to do it. You're looking for good integrity around those joints first before you begin to add anything that is heavier or that adds power. Hope that's helpful. Next, so we've talked about how do you lift for muscle, how do you lift for bone. I'm going to talk next about how do you lift ultimately for metabolism versus functional work. So activities of daily living, getting better balance, getting better, and what is the difference? See you in the next one. Hey, it's Deborah. Okay, last but not least, so this is the last question I'm gonna answer for this video. So what I'd love to have is if you have additional questions, please put them below in the comments. And I think that I just got photobombed by a butterfly. Back to the question is, like, what's the difference between functional exercise and that kind of exercise that really helps bone density? So number one, let's talk what is functional exercise, because a lot of people don't really know. It's a buzzword. People say, oh, you need to be doing that, functional activity. And you do. We need to maintain our mobility. We need to be able to move in all planes of movement. And so there are 3 planes of movement. There's the frontal, the sagittal, and the transverse. Transverse is when we're rotating. So when you roll over, you get out of bed in the morning. You're using that plane. When you turn around to look behind you, pulling out of the car, that rotational part of using your spine is partially transverse plane. And then frontal plane is anything where we're moving side to side. Sagittals moving forward and back. Life happens moving forward and back most of the time, right? So we go for a walk, we go for a run, we bike ride, and we're living out in front, or sometimes we have to back up. Sometimes we should back up, but we don't move a lot anymore the way we did when we were kids. We don't move side to side laterally so much. So have you ever thought about knee injuries from, say, running or walking? Often they're on the lateral side, and the IT band gets tight on the outside of the hip, outside of the knee, and part of that is overuse and underuse both. Like overtraining all of a sudden, but underuse, the muscle in your glute, that glute medius is weak. It's all related. This is why, just the basis for why we need functional movement. We need to do one-legged things. We do need to do one-legged things where we rotate with the opposite hand to pick something up. That's a good thing to do. If you think about yoga, it's actually very functional. And when you think, well, the wisdom of an exercise that's been around for 7,000 years, there's probably something to that, right? So it's all very reasonable. But those things will not build bone density because they don't have the impact on your bones. They don't put pressure, put stress, because what happens if somebody pushes you? What are you going to do? You're going to push back, right? And that is the whole philosophy of strength training, that is enough, adequate stress for your bones. It's got to be heavy enough. That's the difference between a step and a jump. And so it is with weights that are light, that you lift every day, all the time. Not enough. You've got to overdo. You've got to reach true fatigue. So is functional exercise bad? No. But exclusively, is it the only thing that you should be doing? If your number one priority is actually bone density, you want to really be doing, here's my heavy, here's my functional. I'm doing both. They're both included. So one of the things we're concerned about when someone has osteoporosis is, number one, we want to get your bones stronger so that you're not so at risk for fracture. But we also want to get the muscles stronger so that we can incorporate balance and functional exercises better, easier, and more consistently, so that if you trip, you won't fall. You will catch yourself, but hopefully not with your hand. because the wrist is one of those fracture spots. Your wrist, your spine, and your hip are the three what we call osteozones. They're the most likely places to get a fracture because that is where we absorb the stress. Sorry about the noise, all right? So I am somewhere near Boulder, Colorado, and have no control unless I go indoors. So it's just too lovely and beautiful to do that. Okay, so there you have it. So is functional enough? No. Is it something that you want to leave out completely? No. But you do need to look at how am I spending my time, and maybe think of it like a plate, and think, all right, I'm going to portion my strength training, going heavy with weights for as much of that plate as I possibly can, but I'm always going to incorporate some functional work. Sometimes that functional work I will build into warm-ups. The dynamic warm-up in a strength training workout is where we put it, or in the stretching. Or we may put a functional exercise between heavier strength training sessions, or even between heavier weight training exercises in a workout, because that gives you a little bit of a break so that you can come back strong with the rest of them. So just an idea how to work. So, and when I say this is the way I do it, so many of the programs, the 12-week programs we use inside our Flipping 50 members, are only accessible there. We pull one out, and that one is the stronger Tone and Define, called Tone and Define because I'm meeting you where we are, right? We've got to lay a foundation. We do start with slightly higher repetition range, so reduce risk of injury, and we lay that foundation for connective tissue to get stronger around the joint so that you can do more work later. And then we go a little bit heavier, and I would suggest that you progress and progress. Certain workouts will help you to do that and help you to get there. So I'm going to put the link on this video. If you know I'm not there yet, I don't have a regular program and I'm not there, and you're looking for one, I encourage you to stop there and just check it out. And if you have questions, please put them below the video about strength training and about working maybe with certain conditions that you've got.